Howdy folks, and welcome back to World of Warships with Rear Admiral Jingles, where today we're going to be following the exploits of Methian in the Grand Old Lady of Jutland herself, HMS Warspite. The Grand Old Lady probably needs no introduction, but I'm going to do it anyway because she's earned it. She is of course a Tier 6 premium British battleship. She was in fact the first British battleship to be introduced into the game long before the introduction of the Royal Navy as a whole. She is absolutely fantastic, but this is a Tier 8 battle, not Tier 6. And already I know what you're thinking. You're sitting there thinking to yourself, aha, today's video is going to be a story of the underdog rising to the occasion. The plucky Tier 6 underdog humiliating her higher tier teammates and showing them how it should be done. Well, yes. But no, not really. I mean, that kind of happens, but it's really kind of more down to the sheer mind-boggling incompetence of the enemy ships, rather than anything particularly special or impressive that Methian does. Ah, I'm with you now, I hear you all say. So this is going to be another one of those videos where somehow the enemy team manages to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. A particularly common theme around here, I am forced to admit. And yet, that's not really what you have in store for you in today's video either. I mean, there's a certain amount of defeat that does get snatched from the jaws of victory, but almost certainly not in the way that you're thinking. Alright then, Jingles, I hear you all say, going for third time lucky. Is this one of those videos you do where a Joe Average player punches above his weight and achieves a creditable result? Well, again, kind of, but also again, no, not really. No, what we have in store for you today is mostly something that, well, I'm not going to go so far as to say I've never seen before, because I'm pretty sure at some point I've uploaded 2, maybe 3 videos of this sort of thing happening. And today's video does contain elements of somebody snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. It does contain elements of a Joe Average player punching above his weight, and it does contain elements of a bottom tier ship performing above and beyond the call of what anybody would expect a Tier 6 battleship to be able to achieve in a Tier 8 battle. But again, none of that is really the focus of the events of today's video. You know, you could just stop asking questions and watch. How about we try that? Although admittedly, the first few minutes are kind of dull. So, in the interest of moving things along, we're going to skip forward a little. And welcome back, and you haven't really missed anything interesting, although I thought it was worthwhile showing somebody on the enemy team cursing the lack of range on his torpedoes, and Methian's first kill. In fact, other than that, as Methian carefully picks his way around the stern of this friendly Dunker Q in an effort to avoid colliding with him, the only real thing that has happened of note in the previous couple of minutes is Methian's team's uncanny ability to all kind of cluster together and congregate in one end of the map, completely ignoring the flanks, which the enemy team is all too happy to exploit as they sweep around both sides and are very soon going to catch Methian's team in a particularly nasty crossfire. Oh yeah, we've seen this sort of thing before, Jingles. Yes, I'm sure you have. Probably on this channel. But again, that's... well, it's not really the point. So what is the point, Jingles? Don't worry. You'll know it when you see it. So, in the meantime, by virtue of the fact that they're pretty much all there, Methian's team have managed to take Capture Point Charlie. Meanwhile, by virtue of the fact that none of them are there, the enemy team have managed to take Capture Points Alpha and Bravo. Now, there's a Gneisenau taking pot shots just off Methian's starboard beam from a range of about 17 kilometres, and while the Gneisenau doesn't have many guns, they are 15 inches, just like the Warspite's own, and you really do want to try to avoid getting hit by any of them if at all possible. Thankfully, there is a very convenient island just off to the starboard side of the ship's head, which Methian can use to shield himself from any crossfire coming from the direction of that pesky Gneisenau. And that's exactly what he's planning to do. which should allow him to at least only be taking fire from one direction, over there, where he's exchanging shots with the enemy Queen Elizabeth. Enemy carriers getting involved, and while the Warspite's AA is nothing special, he does have a friendly Duke of York right next to him, and between them, their combined anti-aircraft firepower is enough to ensure that the enemy USS Ranger is probably only going to get one strike off before he loses all of the aircraft in that squadron. Methian, meanwhile... Wait, what's that grinding? Whoa, what's... Oh. Okay, that's unusual. Did he just run aground? Because he looks kind of stuck. And I definitely heard metal grinding on rock. Now, in reality, of course, you'd have ripped the bottom of the ship out and you'd be sinking, but this isn't reality, it's World of Warships. So, Methian hasn't sustained any damage from that, but he's not going anywhere quickly. Jingles, he's in a Warspite. The Warspite doesn't go anywhere quickly at the best of times. Well, yeah, smart arse. You know what I mean. He's well and truly stuck on an underwater rock. Except that's not all that's going to happen. I'm sitting here with a big grin on my face right now because I know what's going to happen. So just to set the scene for you, he's not a particularly great player. He never claimed to be. He's in a pretty good ship, but it's a bottom tier pretty good ship. His team have spent the entire game all clustered into one end of the map, allowing the enemy team to envelop them and crossfire them from both flanks. The enemy team have 2 of the 3 cap circles, and despite the fact that somehow... Oh, wait, yes, there it is. I told you you'd know it when it happened. I don't know how that's physically possible, but, well, it's not reality, it's World of Warships. I'm also not entirely sure how this is physically possible. I mean, how those 2 forward 15-inch gun turrets have the gun depression to be able to make that shot over the bows of the ship is anybody's guess. But hey, once again, it's not reality, it's World of Warships. But this is a thing that is actually happening. His rear turret is actually submerged, with pretty much just the top of the turret, and the gun barrels sticking out of the water. He is well and truly stuck. And he's in a position that seems to be in complete defiance of the laws of physics. I mean, in order for that to happen, the centre of gravity of that battleship would have to be around about 50 metres to the rear of the rudder. But this is a thing that is currently happening. However, Methian may be down, but he is definitely not out. Yeah, here's the plucky underdog bit coming into play. I mean, spoiler, he's stuck on this rock for the rest of the battle. He ain't going nowhere. And somehow his team are, well, they're not winning because they're behind on points, but they're nowhere near as far behind on points as they should be. And they're actually ahead on kills, despite the fact that the enemy team have them in an effective crossfire. I mean, it's probably to do with the fact that his entire team is concentrated here, and they've been able to concentrate their fire on the relatively few number of enemy ships that they were facing directly. Speaking of enemy ships that they're facing directly, Methian is in all kinds of trouble now. Shinanomi at point-blank range. I think, based on the evidence, we can quite safely say that the Shinanomi there is probably not aware of the minimum spotting distance in World of Warships. Although I'll say one thing for him, he has just managed to achieve something pretty spectacular. 9 torpedoes launched from a range of 2 kilometres, and he managed to miss with 6 of them. But the minimum spotting distance in World of Warships is 2 kilometres. Doesn't matter if you're in a smokescreen. Doesn't matter if you're on the far side of an island and not in direct line of sight. If you're within 2 kilometres, you are visible. And he is right on the limit of that minimum spotting range. Now, one of the things about the Warspite that sets it apart from the Queen Elizabeth, because they're both Queen Elizabeth class battleships, is that the Warspite has better secondaries. They're still not very good, but they are better. And they were scoring hits as long as the Shinanomi was spotted. He has managed to slip out of minimum spotting range, however, so his smoke screen is actually working. But the thing about smoke screens is that they only work if you either stay in them or you keep them between yourself and anything that has a direct line of sight. And so that is Methian's second kill. And it was, of course, entirely down to the, well, let's be generous and say, interesting choices made by the Shinonome captain. Oh, he's managed to get more torpedoes away. There's another 9 torpedoes. And this time he's managed to miss with 7 of them. Although one of them, because the rearmost turret is basically underwater, one of those torpedoes did hit it and has permanently disabled it. Which means that Methian now only has 1 gun turret left to deal with this mines. Now that was a decent hit considering he could only fire 2 shots, but it was nowhere good enough and he's going to need to do better than that. Fortunately, he's not the only one shooting at the enemy cruiser. But while the situation develops, let's just take the time to stop and take a look at the scores, because, well, despite the fact that they are still behind on points, they're not behind by much, which is surprising because they've only had 1 cap circle this entire game, but it's the kills. Unfortunately, it's more or less at this point where the enemy teams start to fully take advantage of this crossfire that they've developed. And while just a couple of minutes ago, Methian's team were leading 7 kills to 3, and it was the kills that were keeping them in the game, the enemy team are starting to catch up. Methian is on fire thanks to the high explosive from the enemy mines. There's very little he can do about the mines, so that situation is probably going to get worse before it gets any better. And there's an enemy warspite sailing around the headland right in front of him. Now to survive this, Methian has 4 gun barrels available and he needs to score citadels with at least 2 of them. Because while the warspite is reasonably well armoured, that armour doesn't really apply to the underbelly. Oh dear. And just when you thought that there wasn't anything worse that the World of Warships physics engine could do to Methian than it had already done, this is also something that is apparently happening. And oh, where did he go? The magical mystery disappearing Queen Elizabeth class battleship. However, hang on a second. Hey! He got the kill. Right, so yeah, that just happened. And he's not the only one who got a kill. Although, you know, he is in a bottom tier battleship, he's not an amazing player, never claimed to be, never pretended to be, and he does have the most kills of anybody on his team in this battle. But there are now only 2 enemy ships left. That Gneisenau and the mines. They've nailed the enemy carrier, wasn't watching, didn't see it happen. They outnumber the enemy team 2 to 1. The enemy team are, however, about 250 points ahead. And it's because they've held on to 2 cap circles for the entire game. Methian, recognising this, suggests in chat that it might be a good idea for somebody to go and flip capture point B. You know, the one in the middle of the map. The one that they don't currently hold that is closest to them. And I say closest, but we're talking relatively speaking here because, well, look at where the rest of his team are. There's a Lazzo who is heading towards Cap Circle, Bravo in the middle of the map, but everybody else, including the carrier, is chasing after that Gneisenau. The carrier has dropped a fighter squadron on Cap Circle, Bravo. I'm not entirely sure why, because there is nothing there. The mines is about 20 kilometres to the north. And with the exception of the Lazzo, who is on very, very low health, by the way, everybody else on the team is rushing after that Gneisenau. Here's the thing, even if they catch and kill that Gneisenau, which is by no means guaranteed, that's going to put everybody on the team, with the exception of the Lazzo, who is on very, very low health, about 25 to 30 kilometres away from wherever that mines may be. The Mars is busy leaving the safety and comfort of his smokescreen in order to avoid getting hit by any of the 6-kilometre range Gneisenau torpedoes that were launched by a Gneisenau who was 7 kilometres away when he launched them. and is trying to hit a Geyser now that's around about 10 kilometres away from him with his own 8 or 8.5 kilometre range torpedoes. Clearly, that guy did not major in mathematics. Of slightly more concern is the fact that the enemy team are now at 950 points. And even if they catch and kill that Geyser now, which again, I remind you, is by no means guaranteed, that will buy them some breathing space before the enemy team reaches 1,000 points. But then they have to turn around and catch and kill the mines, who, if he had any sense, would have been 30 kilometres away by now. Right up in A1 in the top northwestern end of the map, staying alive and just waiting for his team to reach 1,000 points. But the mines is even more of a tryhard than the rest of Methian's team. He was just spotted as the enemy team reached 995 points, like 5 seconds away from winning when they finally sink the Geyser now and buy themselves probably around another 30 seconds of breathing space. But rather than doing the smart thing and just running for the border while staying unspotted, the Mines is trying to throw the game even harder than the rest of Methian's team. He was just spotted trying to flip Capture Circle Charlie. So what I want to know is, and this is a serious question, is when you're 250 points ahead, you hold 2 caps, you're the last ship left alive on your team, and you're about 30 seconds away from winning on points. Why do you sail towards the enemy team? Do you just not like winning? I mean, inquiring minds want to know. And it's not like Methian's team were making it hard for the mines, because the carrier refused to scout him. The Lazzo is only just slipped into the cap circle here. I mean, you can see how little health he has remaining. He was hiding behind the island because he saw the mines pop up and he didn't want to get broadsided. If only the carrier had spotted him so the Lazzo could have planned his capture accordingly. If only 75% of the team hadn't gone chasing after one ship, with 3 minutes of the game remaining. If only Methian hadn't been the only person on his team capable of thinking and breathing at the same time. And it's not like the enemy team were exactly trying to make things difficult for them either. I mean, the mines even had the courtesy to come back to within spotting and shooting range, when he absolutely didn't need to, and definitely should not have. I don't think this was really a case of the best team won. Both teams were trying as hard as they possibly could to lose this match. It's just that one team was trying that little bit harder. So, Methian, a spectacular battle, although probably not in the way that most people are used to. But it was very entertaining to watch. Thank you very much, and I hope everyone else enjoyed it, because that's it for today. As always, take care, stay safe, and I'll catch you next time.